Hello and welcome to Tournament Poker Project. My name's John.
And I'm Tain.
And we are two recreational players from Essex, and this is our journey to get good enough at poker to be able to go and compete in the World Series of Poker. And not just compete, but to crush.
That's to destroy.
To destroy. We want to just ruin lives.
Send people home crying.
We're not professionals. We are, this is relatively near the start of our journey. We appreciate that. Please appreciate that too. Listen to our thoughts, and if you've got any thoughts of your own, please post them. We'd love to hear it. So let's jump straight into it, Tain. Have you got a hand for us today?
I do indeed. This is from it's quite a cheap $2.20 tournament. Playing on PokerStars. It's playing during the day. Not that it makes too much difference, but because we're in the UK, I generally find you're playing a slightly better standard of player than a $2 would attract at, say, 9 p.m. on a Friday. I'm sitting in the big blinds. I've been spending a lot of time. Pretty much the whole reason I was playing this tournament and a couple of others was to really pay attention to what I'm doing pre-flop when I am free betting, how my opponents are responding to free bets, four bets, when I'm stealing and what kind of range of hands I'm stealing with, but really trying to put pressure on certain players in certain positions, as well as defending my big blinds the right number of with the right frequency, just because against players that I feel are active or good, I end up overfolding. And sometimes against weak players, I can get a bit sloppy and start overcalling. I'll say that very, very slowly. From the table, everyone was playing fairly weakly, even though I said that standard play is generally a bit better. So for the most part, I weren't free betting all the time. I weren't playing erratically, but I was picking probably once every revolution or two. I was picking a free bet. So people knew who I was, and they were adjusting against me. So things were a bit more, like we're seeing, things were a bit more limpy because I'd been free betting a bit more, and it had been successful. So anyway, come to me. I'm sitting in the big blinds, and we look down at a monster. I've got king of clubs, 5 of diamonds, and everyone knows in the big blinds, king 5 off is, well, it's crap. But I've decided that I'm going to play it. Hence, we've got something to talk about.
So what's the action before you? So you've got 8 other people at the table, so it's 9-handed. And so who opens here?
So we've got mid position 1 or under the gun +2, depends how you want to say it. So we've got 3, 6, 9 players at the table. So person in seat where it says seat 4 on there, but yeah, the person who's under the gun +2 is the one who opens it for a min raise. The min raise was a bit unusual at this table as well. Like that weren't a normal raise. Then we've got the person immediately behind them, mid position 2, calls. Then we've got fold, and then all the late positions and small blind calls. So we've got a min raise, 1 call, 2 call, 3 call, 4 call, and now it's around to me in the big blind. Am I going to call to make it a juicy 6-person pop?
So my thoughts on this are, I've been reading a bit about defending your big blind when there is someone who's called an open in front of you, and rather counterintuitively, you should actually defend less. Although you're getting a better price for a bigger pot, it's actually less likely you're going to be able to play a not great hand against 2 opponents. And the way multi-way pots play just means that it's not always worth it. In this instance, you've got 3,020 in the pot and you've got to put in 250. I mean, you can't be trying to hit 2 pair. That would be, there's like a 1 in 50 chance of hitting your 2 pairs. So you've definitely not got, a 1 in 50 pot odds there. You've got something like what, 1 in 12.
Yeah, 12 to 1.
Yeah, 12 to 1. So it's not worth it to hitting 2 pair, but it's probably just, I don't know. Maybe that's a reason not to call. Maybe you should fold it. I don't know.
I mean, one thing.
What are we hoping to hit? I mean, if we hit a king, there's a good chance some bugger's got a better king.
No, sure. One thing I forgot to mention is the stack sizes. So I'm sitting on the big blind with essentially 60 big blinds. So I'm fairly deep. The player who opened is got about 50 big blinds, maybe a bit less. The player behind them is massive. They're over 100 big blinds. And then everyone else is almost exactly the same stack as me. So pretty much everyone's good stacks, 50 to 60 big blinds or more. So that did influence my thinking. So the small stacks are out, even though they're not small stacks. There's a lot of play to be had that even if I don't get to realise my equity that much, when you're getting 12 to 1, you will get paid so much more. Basically, it's worth trying to hit because the effective stack is so high for this stage of a tournament, and the chances of realising that value when you do hit massive, something comes out king or even 5-5, you're getting such a good value out of that. It highly incentivizes you to make that very tiny small 12 to 1 call.
Yeah, it does seem like just way too good a price to fold anything almost, just in case.
Yeah.
So all right, so I don't think there's any don't think there's a raise here ever, not even mixing up a bit. There's 5 people in this hand. There's the opener might even go for it, but one of these guys, if we raise to like 3,000 now, 3.5K or something, just to try and take this down, all you need is one caller. Unless it's the small blind, you're going to be out of position playing them post flop, for a massive pot with king 5 offsuit. It just doesn't feel like a raise here. So yeah, with that in mind, I think you're right. This is probably just a call.
Yep.
So we do call. Oh, sorry.
I was going to try to make it sound dramatic, but no, of course I called. There was never any. There's no doubt I was going to make any other move. I mean, as you said, I would consider raising it. Something silly, as you said, 2,000-3,000, on the understanding that I'm not trying to win with my hand at that point. I'm trying to win any board that comes out, 7-4-3 rainbow, because I know that most of the players around the table can probably they're good enough to know that that's a bad board and they're scared, but they're not good enough to realize that I'm specifically targeting them because their range is now so capped at the top end. I'm going to try to win 30, anything that falls below the weakest 30% of boards. And that's not a great strategy, but I can normally find out without committing too many ships if that's the case. But again, we're playing super multi-way 6-handed here, so that again wouldn't be the strategy. On the assumption that if I did raise massive, I got a lot of folds, but then I'm playing king 5 out of position in a huge pot that's all of a sudden, half my stack. Anywho,
yeah,
I digress. The flop comes to us with a 8 of hearts, a king of diamonds, and a jack of hearts. So we've got king, jack, 8, 2 hearts, and I'm sitting pretty with king of clubs, 5 of diamonds. So I've hit top pair and essentially no kicker, and we get a check from the small.
Well, this to me is just a check. There's way too many people in this pot to start thinking about making this pot massive. Can you raise just to see if anyone's? I don't know. I mean, it just feels like this is such a so many people in this. I mean, I'm probably calling a lot, unless I don't know. In fact, if the original opener bets this one and C bets it, and then we get a load more callers again, I might just be like, I mean, I'll probably call. Yeah, this is kind of why it's just shit going in for it, because you just haven't got a clue where you're at. There's probably someone with a flush draw on here. There's 1 in 10 chance someone's hit £2 on the flop, considering there's 5 other people, and there's like a 1 in 50 chance. I'm not really worried about that. It's a little bit of a straight on the board there. It's quite dynamic, isn't it, with the king jack, and even the 8 connects with the jack a little bit. You've got open-ended strokes there with the 9-10, but things like queen 10 have got an open-ended as well. I mean, even like queen 9 is a little bit of a worry. They've got a gut shot. So there's loads of like people that are calling with straights or flush draws. Yeah. To me, I think this is just a check. What do you think?
Yeah, 100%. For me, it's for every reason you said, as well as for being in the big blind just calling. My range at this point is really wide, and even though I can easily have hands that have smashed that flop, I've got so much other junk in there that I need to be checking almost pretty much 100% with my entire range, because otherwise it starts becoming really obvious every time I'm in the big blind that if a good card comes and I bet out against what my range is, it's because I've got it, which means every other time that I'm not leading at, I've either got a giant monster that I'm trying to slow play, or more likely I've missed. And I think that's way too exploitable. So most of my range misses that board massively. I'm scared of everything. I'm well out of position. So it is 100% check entire range.
Okay.
So I do. Just to say, I did have a slight feeling. I was going to see if there was action, where it was coming from. So if there was action from the person who initially raised, who's under the early position, if they raised and it was a modest raise, I'd probably call. Possibly, if it was quite a small raise, I'd consider a re-raise.
Okay.
But re-raise, even though I've got top pair, re-raise to fold. So if they come over me with a 4-bet, a 3-bet, I'm folding, even though I've got top pair. Just assume that they've got something very strong. Even if it's just a draw, it's just one of them times. Because I think that the re-raise would work enough of the time that the times it doesn't, they're either playing really well or they're beating me. If it came from, say, it checks all the way around to seat 9, sorry, not seat 9, to the button, and then they put in a modest bet, then I'd probably be free betting 100% of the time. Just because that's the perfect position to say, well, no one else is betting, I'll throw in a little bit. And you'll find out very quickly if that was them taking a punt or if they've really got something. And if they just call it, I'd see that as weakness. Whereas if I if I raised early position, the original raiser, and they just called it, I wouldn't see that as weakness. I'd see that as I've still got a strong hand and position. I'm going to see what the turn brings. Anywho, sorry, I digress.
Okay, so what happens then after that? Everyone checks.
It is checkaroo. Now, is this a great card or is it a?
So the turns come the 5 of hearts.
Yeah, is it a wolf in sheep's clothing?
Well, I mean, straight away I'm thinking, shit, can't it have been one of the black 5s?
Yeah.
Because then I'd have been really quite happy about it. Well, there's not even a completed straight out there yet. If there wasn't a completed flush, you've got to guess you're ahead most of the time. Obviously, there's the sets. The opener is the only person that could potentially have pocket kings. So that's just the one person. But there are, I think, amongst the other 4 flat callers pre-flop, lots of combinations of king jack, maybe even jack 8 suited, king 8 suited potentially from like maybe the button position.
I mean, for me, I'm getting rid of most of them because when you're playing six-handed, I don't care how much you love slow playing, you raise. You can't be sitting there with 2 pair, especially with 2 hearts to the draw. You have to bet. So the fact that everyone checked,
and I can't now be worried about 2 pair. I was just saying, like 5 minutes ago,
gotcha.
how I'm not worried about 2 pair as well. So I don't know why I'm suddenly like, oh, what if they've got king jack? So yeah, I think we block the king as well, don't we? So I don't think there's loads. The only ones really that leaves is jack 8. But yeah, so I mean, we don't need to be worried about any straights, but there is a flush there now, which is a little bit unfortunate. That being said, I think it's time to put a bet out. Everyone checked. I think we need to see what's happening, and probably quite a smallish bet would get it done. The big blind is 250. I'd probably put out a bet of about maybe 900.
Cool. I like reasoning. See what happens. What do I do?
You check.
Check.
Okay. And what happens next?
Then the person who was the original raiser, who just checked the last round of betting, has now put in a bet that is half pot.
Wow, that's a big bet. That is a big bet against 5 opponents. Like, it is a big multi-way pot. There's bloody 6 people in it, so him and 5 others, and he's decided to bet half pot. Now, that's pretty big. As we know, when you're in a multi-way pot, you don't need to bet as big if you're trying to get people off the hand, because people don't need to defend as much. But then, that being said, he might just be assuming that everyone else doesn't really think like that, and they think, oh, I've got a middle pair or a bottom pair, I may as well continue on a half pot bet. So I suppose you could read it either way. Okay, what happens next?
Yeah, I mean, just to say what you said about not needing to raise it so large was pretty poignant in my mind at that point, because since you've said that, because I used to think, oh, there's 6 people in, I've got to raise it big because I've got to try to shove not one person out, but 5 others. And it's incredible how little you have to do that. That quarter bet that risks pretty much the minimum you'd ever need to. You get folds. You get, even if you're not getting all the folds from the table and winning the pot there and then, you're gonna realise the equity of all 3 people that have folded that might spike the last card or something.
Most people intuitively know, even if they don't know the maths, they'll intuitively know, well, there's 5 other people in this pot. My middle pair is probably not worth continuing with, even though he's only bet a quarter pot or whatever. Most people know that, and it does thin the field enough. And yeah, I guess, it just seems pretty massive. And so, all right. So the original raiser, the turns come, 5 of hearts. There's 3 hearts on the board. He's raised half pot. And then
we've got a call. So a call from the cutoff.
Yeah.
Which I weren't expecting.
Flat call
for half pot. And I thought the bet size was quite specific. When I checked, my intention was to check raise, and the half pot size did make me sit back and reevaluate. Not that I was surprised that much by it, but it meant that my options, given the pot size, were a lot more limited than I thought.
So you can't suddenly, especially with the flat caller, you'd have to go up to like 4K or something now to make this, I mean, what are we hoping to do? Like, in my mind, we're just flat calling this. You got hope that the original raiser is like, you know what, I've got ace king. I should have raised on the flop. The flush has come. I'm not making that mistake again. I'm gonna bet this now. And he's bet too big, but he's got a flat caller in the cutoff. What the hell's he got? I'm probably most scared of what the cut-off's got at the moment. I think the original Razor doing a delayed C bet and only betting it on the turn doesn't mean a great deal. I don't think it means he's got 2 hearts in his hand, but a flat call after him, knowing that the button and the small blind are still to act after him. Oh, and the big blind, so us as well. So 3 people left after him to act. He's just flat called 1600. I'm most worried about this guy, this cut-off position, if I'm honest with you. I'm still calling it all day long, especially because we might hit a boat on the end, and if one of these buggers has got a flush, then we are quids in. Yeah. We're probably almost definitely going to stack them if they've got a flush and we've got a boat on the river. So I am calling it. I think the implied odds for that alone is just worth it. But also, even if we don't hit the boat, there is a chance that I think the original Razor, his half pot bet could be with anything. He might just have top pair and be trying to just take it down, and that's why he's bet big. The cut off flat call, maybe he's got something that's got showdown value, like some sort of king, and just he's can't give it up. So I don't think it guarantees that the cut-off's got 2 hearts in his hand, but I am worried about that with him. It seems like quite a risky call with 3 people yet to act. Flat call in 1600.
Yeah. So at this point, first of all, the squeeze was on my mind, and I thought that if either player were the type to be familiar with squeezes and react to them, that this could be a really good position to squeeze if I didn't feel that my hand was winning. But I do think my hand is likely not certainly best, but I felt that there's not much out there because I've already got rid of the king. I've already got rid of all the 2 pairs that were flopped because I feel you would have bet them 6-way. I think I've got rid of all the sets. So the only thing that we were left with are either flushes, ace king, king queen, multi draws, queen 10, jack 10 maybe, ace jack, hands like that are happy to have come along. The pot was quite inflated because it was 6-way. So there's a lot of drawing hands. There's a lot of bluff but can improve, semi bluff hands. For instance, if I put in a massive squeeze, I had a feeling I might get called just by the ace of hearts, in the hope that I've got the nut flush draw, and there's a lot of money to be won in that pot. And all of our stacks are stack to pot ratios pretty much 2-1, 1.5 to 1 for the
and what would you
early position.
What would you be hoping? What better hands are you hoping to fold out by squeezing here? What better hands do you think would fold?
Well, yeah, sorry. So in the turn that I've disregarded the squeeze in the idea that I've got the winning hand, so I would be raising in the hope that I'd actually be called.
Okay, so
I did think about the squeeze, and I weren't sure how strong or weak because I have only got 2 pair, and there's a whole bunch of stuff.
That's the thing, yeah.
Quite a wet board out there, but yeah. I do feel that most of that was disregarded. It's difficult at this level to say someone definitely won't have been slow playing a pair of 8s, but I don't think they were slow playing a pair of 8s. I'd be willing to just pay that off at this point with 2 pair that could improve still. Actually, no, if I had a pair of 8s, I'd need to hit a king. So, but yeah, I was considering.
Sorry.
I did consider a raise. There was a lot of worse hands that would call me with a raise. If I squeezed, it'd probably just be a shove, just to get them extra folds. But I wouldn't want that. So it might be even just min raise, to 3,002. And hope that ace king comes along for the ride, queen 10 even just as I said, even the ace of hearts might just come along for the ride.
Something
Cross their
like
fingers.
Queen 10 with the Queen of Hearts, or even Queen 9 with the Queen of Hearts would probably continue here in that cut-off position. And the original raiser that's now bet this turn, he might have a hand at that as well, thinking, well, I can now take a bluff at this. Everyone's checked. I've got a flush draw and an open-ended straight draw. I've got like 15 out of 45, like 1 in 3 chance of completing my straight or my flush on the river anyway. So this could be a bit of a, I'm happy to take the pot down now, but if I get a caller, I've got a good shot at actually, possibly even stacking them on the river if my flush comes in or my straight comes in. So, all right. So what do you do?
Just call.
Just call.
Which I think I agreed with everything you said. That was my thought process, but again, I felt my hand was strong enough at that point. It weren't winning everything, but I'd be getting rid of too much by raising in that position. I needed to keep things like, at the moment, I've still got it in my mind that the early position player who's been the only one who's raised at any point so far is incentivized to do that as the first raised in, raised first in. Sorry, so they can be c-betting a bit more light, whether they are or not, because there's a pretty decent board for someone who's been raising, is up for debate. But I certainly don't want to be raising and getting rid of any doubt that they're beating me if there is hands in their range that they could be bluffing with. So anyway, the last card comes, we see the river, and it's the ace of spades. So
ace of spades. So the straights, some of the straights got there, the Queen 10.
Yeah. Annoyingly,
I don't love it as well. Like the original opener, one of his potential holdings was ace king. Even ace jack, I think, is a potential holding for him.
Even ace 8.
Even considering that.
Basically, given how checky it was, because we all checked round. So actually, I think ace king's probably the least likely, but ace 8 and ace 5.
Yeah, that's
really
quite irritating,
possible.
actually. That is quite irritating. I mean, and even the cutoff could have ace jack.
Yeah.
He flat called on the turn. It could be because he's got a second pair with a jack and he knows he's got showdown value.
Yeah.
And he could have improved. This is scary. I mean, it's a little bit scary, but I'm doing the same thing. I'm checking this all day long and calling, but depending on the bet size, if someone jams here, I'm going to find it really hard to call. I'll have to see if anyone bets and have a think about whether it's worth the call or not. But right now I'm checking. I'm calling. I'm snap calling anything up to half pot, I would say. Like if someone puts 4K in, I haven't got to think about that too much. We'd still have 9,000 chips. That's like 30, 36 big blinds or whatever it is. I'd have that left. So I'm snap calling 4K. Anything above that, I might have to take a view on it and reevaluate.
Yep. That's exactly everything that was going through my mind. Everything.
Okay. So you've checked.
So I do. It's exactly what I do. But then I weren't expecting this. It is a massive jam over bet of the pot. Not massive over bet, but we are talking about 120% from the original raiser, Mr. Under the Gun +1 or Mrs. Or Miss. Just pushed everything. And that push didn't feel right for me.
Yeah, I'll tell you why it doesn't feel right. He's now representing like, I slow played my pocket king, so I hit a set of jacks on the flop. It's like he's saying, I've got a really big hand here. If he had the straight, I mean, there's always a chance he's got this bloody flush, and if he's got that, then good luck to him. Well done. But if he's got the straight here, if he's got a set here, there's a flush on the board. If he's got a set, there's a straight on the board, and all these other players. That is a really bold bet. Like, what are you trying to do? Are you trying to bluff us off of the hand, or are you trying to get value? If you've got a monster that you can't be beaten, like an ace high flush, then you ain't doing an overbet. You're going to put in $3,000, $4,000, see what you can squeeze out of these other players. He must know that if we've not got the flush and he's sitting there with the nut flush, unless he's got, maybe he's got the ace of hearts, so he knows that we might have a flush, but it's not the nut flush. And maybe he's got something like ace queen or ace 10. So he had a gut shot all the way along, like on the flop, he had the gut shot. And come the river, he's hit his ace, but he knows there could be flushes out there. So he's turning his aces into a bluff, knowing that he's blocking the nut flush. People can't have the nut flush because he's got the ace of hearts. But then why wouldn't he have done that on the turn? I don't know. This is weird. It's not. I can't quite understand what he's representing here. It almost feels like a little bit of a desperate attempt to take down a pot that he's ended up putting too many chips into, with something like king queen, and he's got a pair of kings, and now he knows he could well be behind. I honestly don't know. So maybe that makes him a great player. He's made me completely indifferent.
Yeah, and that is exactly like, you couldn't have said it better than me. Like, that articulated everything going through my mind. That if I just put myself in their position, you checked the flop. So if you had the flush, you draw into it. Good result. Everyone checks round. Turn come, you put in a bet. You got some calls. Like, people are coming along for the ride, but no one's raising. You've got no reason to believe that we're going to call. First of all, there's no reason to believe that we're going to call you when you make this massive jam. But you do want us to call, like, something if there's anything possible. We check into us was never the option. They'd be foolish to check, because everything said to date that we're just going to check behind, unless we woke up with an ace. Maybe that's it. He thinks we've woke up with an ace, if that's what the jam is, and he is massive with the flush. But I do think that even ace, well, as I said, I don't think he was playing ace king, ace jack, but if he had ace 8 or even ace 5, I don't know how he'd get to the turn with ace 5, but he was the main. It's just checks, so he easily could get to the flop with ace 5 and then bet it. So he's woke up with 2 pair. I am a little worried about them, but not much, because there's a lot of other things. Miss flushes is the kind of thing that would also be betting in this position. But then, are you really going to get the ace to fold? I just couldn't understand why a small bet in this position might see 2. Even if he gets a call here, he could bet a lot less and get both of us committed, essentially. Say he bets small, and then the person behind him shoves over the top or pushes. I just think that this is going to achieve the least amount of value with this shove.
All I would say, though,
like, check.
Well, when you're playing a certain level of table and the players are a little bit more thinking players, they know that big overbet on the end there is polarized, and they know it can look bluffy. And so if he did have a monster, he's made it look like he's potentially bluffing, or it's a scared bet, and he just wants everyone to go away. Like, I'm jamming all my chips in, get away from the pot. I haven't got nothing, but I want to take it down. Making it look like that with such a bet, can be quite a good move. Like, you've got a monster, make it look like you're bluffing by putting all your chips in, like as if you don't want value, you just want everyone to fold. And actually, someone overthinks it and thinks, yeah, you know what, my pair of kings might be good here. I'm going to call him off, and then he flips over his ace high flush or something. So I think he's playing all right, because I don't know what to do.
I mean, he's doing all right, but I don't think it's for the wholesome reasons that you're giving. If he's got a strong hand, I do believe that it was I got 2 calls before. Let's get this over and done with. I want to win this hand and I want to win it now. Not if he'd have got 2 folds and he turns over and he's got a monster, I feel that they'd consider that a success. It's that kind of what I want to feel is the win.
If he had 2 hearts on the flop, right, and so he had 4 to a flush, is he really just checking that? Could be. If he's got top pair, if he's got a really strong hand like Ace King there, which isn't that strong considering how many people are in the pot, but would he really just check that with the 2 hearts on the board and 5 people left to act after him? And is he going to give someone the chance to see a free card to catch a heart when he's sitting there with top pair, top kicker? It's difficult for him to have. It's difficult, even like a set. If he had a set of kings or a set of jacks, it feels a little bit difficult to understand how he could just let 5 other people get a free turn when there's 2 hearts on the board and someone could quite easily be sitting there with 2 hearts. And you'd want to protect that strong hand a little bit against all those people. You'd want to make someone pay to draw.
It's a great bluff anyway. Like if you're playing second to act and you get 2 cards to the flush and you're sitting there with the same 2 cards and you make a decent raise and take what is a fairly built up pot at that point because there were so many people in it, that's a good result. You didn't need to wait and see if the flush turned. Okay, it did, but you might not. If I fold in this position, you've gained very little extra value, and you could have guaranteed the pot straight away with a good raise, or at least you're building up a decent pot. So if your flush does come in, you've got extra value in there. There might be extra people ready to call, and when you've got the nuts, you've also got the hidden side that if you've got a good strong hand, everyone expects a continuation bet. So that when you do that, it's you're playing with your whole range still, because most of the time you're continuation betting when there's a king and a jack out there and 2 cards to the flush. People expect that, so people either assume you've got a strong hand, whether you have or not is irrelevant, or they're just expecting a C bet regardless. So you're getting either people will fold because they've missed the flop anyway, or they'll call you because they think, oh well, you're C betting anyway, and you're sitting there pretty if the flush does come in. Is it? Yeah.
If he's got 2 pair, if say he's got Ace King and he had top pair, top kicker on the flop. It seems unlikely. I can't work out this betting, and for that reason, I think I've just got to call him, because when it doesn't make sense, or it doesn't seem to make sense, sometimes it's because it doesn't. Sometimes when the betting just doesn't seem to tell any kind of coherent story, it's because it isn't, and he's just stabbing at it. And as much as I hate that putting like most of our chips in and crippling our stack, we've got 2 pair here. I feel like this is very difficult to fold.
Yeah, and that's kind of where I was thinking. So just for the sake of narrative, the person in between us, who I thought was probably the most scary at that point, like you said,
the cutoff
has folded. So it is now, and I tanked for ages on this. My time bank went down almost to the wire, and I couldn't get it past that every single value hand that beats me in this position, I either wouldn't have got past the flop, or B, just wouldn't be shoving, just wouldn't take that risk, even if they thought it was a brilliant way to disguise their hands, make it look like a bluff. They didn't have enough reads on me to do that, And we're playing at such a level that there'd be nothing to expect that I'm the type of player to read into that. That everyone would see that overbet. Ooh, look, that's a scary bet. And they'll either call you when they're massive or they fold when they're not. So your bluff's useless. You are either winning anyway or losing anyway. So I just couldn't place it. I didn't know what to do. I mean, looking back, the only thing that's tickling me is the check on the turn, on the flop, and then coming to life on the turn.
But he comes to life big on the turn as well. It's like if you're slow playing a monster, like a set or whatever, and then the turn comes down and completes the flush.
Yeah.
Like, are you then suddenly like, oh, now I'm going to play my trips really hard when actually one of these 5 other players might have hit the flush? So he can't have that.
Well,
has he got the flush himself? Possibly. He might have checked it. He could have checked the flop because he had a flush draw. The turn comes, he's completed his flush. Bam! I'm going to start betting. All I can put him on that beats you is a flush.
Yeah,
and that just feels a bit unlucky.
And it's like just another little tickle is that when you're playing the cutoff and you decide not to, you're the only person to have raised pre-flop. You've got a whole massive bunch of callers, but your early position. When you choose not to see bet because you think, oh, there's 4 people behind me, I don't want to see bet and then get re-raised or something. I'm just going to check, and then everyone checks behind you. Think, wow, 6 people checked. I do feel a lot of players then, when they're checked to again from me and the big blind, think, ooh, I better make up for lost ground. And that's what it's not a proper delayed continuation bet where they're doing it because they've gained a lot more information now, they're a lot more empowered. It's more of a, I don't want to make that mistake again. Ooh, I can't believe I didn't try and see bet the last hand. So I'm going to just throw it in with, I might have, ace 8 or ace 7 or something, complete miss essentially. But now they've decided, well, if everyone checked, no one's going to have hit the 5. It's just now I can win the pot, even though I'm early.
Yeah, I see.
It's not often, but
just a proper delayed C bet, like, right, I checked the flop because I had a monster. You're saying I checked the flop because I had a monster, but the turns come, I'm betting now because I've got a monster and I should have done this on the first hand. And it might be that he's done that, or it might be that he's representing that. I don't know. But
yeah. Or even with complete air. Like, they knew they should have continuation bet with, let's say the flop came out, so we've got King of Diamonds, Jack of Hearts, 8 of Hearts, and they were sitting there with ace 7 of spades or clubs, and they chose not to continuation bet because they've missed the boards and there's 4 players behind him. I have definitely played in situations where I've seen people then, when something comes on the turn that's kind of, it's not a brick because it does make the flushes, but it's a low card, it's in their mind of little relevance. When I then check to them again and they're like, all right, I missed the C bet last time, and then everyone checks, if I bet now, they might fold now. Is that like that? I don't think that 5 would have made enough of them hands. Now I'm going to try to win the pot.
That does make sense, and because the half pot then is just a clear kind of like, let's make this big enough to get everyone go away. I've only got ace, I've got nothing, I've got ace high, but let's bet half pot and everyone check the flops, so they'll probably all fold.
Yep, and it could then be when they hit the ace on the river. It's like, oh, okay, well, at least I've got a hand there.
Now I've won. Now I've won because everyone must have one pair, and I've got the best pair now.
Possibly
with ace queen, or ace 10. That's, if I had to put him on a hand, it's ace queen or ace 10, possibly with the ace of hearts.
But unfortunately, I fold and we never find out.
Oh, you're joking! Why did you do this?
No, I didn't.
Oh, you called. I'm just like, you do call. Okay, are we ready to see what this bastard's got?
Yeah, let's do it.
Ace 4 of hearts. So he did have the flush. So it kind of does make sense, and we said that, didn't we? That on the flop, he's got the flush draw. Oh, you know, I've got flush draw, just check it, see it. You know, luckily everyone checked. He's got to see a free card. The flush came on the turn for him with the 5 of hearts, and he bet it, and us mugs called him.
Yeah, like just to point a finger at him or her, they lost so much value by not putting in a quarter or a third size bet. They would at least, because there's every chance there'd be, when that 5 came, I would still be in and I'd still be calling these all in. But there's every chance they've just got an extra 2 or 3 quarter bets that people that have already shown to be limpy callies would also have called, and then they've hit the nuts, because they were always drawing to the nuts, not just a flush. They're drawing to the absolute nuts. There is no straights out there that are beating him. There's no boats out there. So when the flush comes in,
but if he had done that, then we would have been more suspicious on the river, and we might not have called him. Like it almost looked like a bit of a bluff at the end, which kind of prompted us to. It was enough bluff. It was bluff enough looking that we then were like, okay, we can call this.
You say that, but that's because he overbet. If he'd have left the betting up to me, maybe with just a little tiny little teaser bet, there's every chance I might have shoved all in over the top. And the pot would have been bigger at that point, so I would have had a lot harder job of getting away. So it might be that it always ended up in tears for me, because
I think so.
I'm too tricky to throw away King 5, even in a 6-way pot, which should always be not good enough, especially when the ace cut. Well, no. Normally the ace would be a scare card, but this is one of the very few times that the river came and I didn't care that was an ace, even with just king as my high. I'd eliminated every ace that I was worried about other than ace 8, and I thought, you know what, if you've got ace 8, have my chips. It was that flush, and it was just the flush.
Yeah.
But as well, I'm glad that my decision making, as much as I could improve it, this is not really the spot that I'm overly worried about. And at the time I felt gutted, you know, because I tanked so long about it. You do feel that devastating. Oh, so close to folding. But the truth is that that's because, as you said, it's almost an indifference. Yeah. And that's why I'm worried about. And the times that I should be concerned about is when I'm not betting, and I should be, because I'm going to get extra value, or I'm folding in times where I should never be folding because I've got way too much equity left in hand. So yeah, no, it's good. I'm quite happy that I lost this.
Okay, so you do it again?
Yeah, basically. I wouldn't do anything different. I can't imagine me at this stage in my game doing anything different. That isn't to say that I've not got things that I should improve on, and there certainly is. And one of the things you said right at the start of, even though you're getting great odds, you end up getting sticky. You know what I mean? What do you do when you hit 2 pair? Well, you lose to a flush in this situation.
It's almost like when a multi-way pot and there's so many people in the hand, when that gets so big by the river, there's so many hands that could have made flushes and draws. I suppose it is, you know, and they're the ones that are going to be continuing. All the other ones drop out, and it's like there's just that much more chance that 2 pairs not going to be ahead when the board's got a flush on it, when it's got a straight on it. I suppose it's kind of the reason why we should avoid multi-way pots if at all possible.
6-way pots. That's a
6-way, baby. That's like a Ben Fleet special.
Yeah, I've actually got another 6-way pot that's in my hand history right underneath, which was me playing a progressive knockout, and I had kings, and it went min raise, call. I shoved all in.
And everyone
call.
Oh my god!
The kings held as well. I went through 20 big blinds to 125 big blinds.
Jesus!
Didn't take anyone out though, and then exited without winning a single knockout. But
oh god!
Like I've never quadrupled up, more than quadrupled up.
Or 6 times, mate. Whatever that is.
Yeah.
Sextupled.
delicious.
Cheap.
But yeah.
Amazing. All right. Well, any final thoughts, Tain, before we wrap it up?
No, I'm really happy. I like that we started this pod many moons ago where we were very different players. And that hand, you proper align with everything I was thinking. The things you're worried about, I was really scared that you'd be like, oh, this is an easy fold. And you really weren't. You were thinking everything I was thinking. You was looking at the hand, you was working out the patterns. And it really gives me a lot more confidence that what used to be very different styles of play are now converging to a very, very, very similar style of play.
Yeah, just for that, when it comes to calling at the end, and you could say we're the ones with the condensed range, even though it's 2 pair, it's still only 2 pair because it's such a multi-way pot. You know, you can't play a condensed range and call and then fold because someone bets big. That's not how it works. When they're polarized like that, it's just that they've got value bets, but they've got bluffs, and it's good play from them in a sense because they've made us indifferent to what we do. You know, we could call it, we could fold it. We don't really know what to do. We called it. That worked out in their favour.
Yeah.
Anyway, all right, dude. Well, thanks very much, everyone, for listening, and we'll see you next time.
Thanks, everyone. Take it easy.
Take care.